Yep.
We are Team Wester.
And you are the most important thing to us.
Team Wester
Podcast. It's all about the team.
Hey, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Team Wester podcast. I'm Clay Moden with Brad Gelber out here at a great dealership, ready for another exciting episode.
Yeah, and we're actually joined today by a very special guest. Last week we had our first guest in Del Reed from 26 Shirts, but now we have our first player guest, and it's Team Wester's tight end extraordinaire, Dawson Knox. Dawson, thanks for joining us today.
What's up, guys? Appreciate y'all having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so,
absolutely.
you know, one of the things that we've been kind of describing on these podcasts to people is this whole Team Wester concept. So, you know, we brought you in the past, and this season we really kind of solidified that partnership with you. We had our shoot day a couple months ago now with Josh and some of the other guys. So I just wanted to kick it off by, like, what was that like? What was that like for you to kind of be at like a shoot? I know you've done all different media stuff in your career and things, but like being part of this Team Wester thing, it's a little different probably from some of the other stuff.
Yeah. It's always more fun when you can do it with other teammates too. I mean, you guys had all the legit stations set up. There was the 360-degree camera. That was fun with like the dark locker room. Yeah. And there were even people in the stands just there watching the photo shoot. So it was pretty fun throwing the ball around with Josh. Anytime you can go out there with teammates, it's a lot better than just doing a one-on-one thing.
Yeah, for sure. And for people maybe that haven't seen the pictures or the content, there's some really cool pictures we got of you, like Michael Jordan in the air, like just outrighting, reaching, and like
totally a catch too. I definitely wasn't holding the ball, jumping. Yeah, definitely caught it.
It makes it cool. Like I photoshopped the other day before the Baltimore game. You jumping over a Raven, so like it worked out really well. You didn't even know you did it. So
didn't even see
perfect.
That one. Yeah, exactly. It was just good timing.
Do you have a scrapbook of those kind of things? Because obviously, you know, you've been in a lot of great plays and catches before. You keep those? Is there like a spot that you like have a digital download of all this stuff?
So, yeah, it's pretty cool now. There's an app. I think it's called like Socially or something. Mm-hmm. Makes it easy for all the players. Whoever is the one taking the pictures, they usually just tag us and somehow it goes straight to that app. So I've got a big folder from whether it's games or practices or, you know, pregame stuff. Anything that they take a picture of you in, somehow it gets added to that folder. Like I was tagged in one from this last weekend. I'm like barely in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know how they could tell I was in it, but somehow it was sent to me.
That's
I think
exciting.
It's a picture of Coach McDermott.
Great.
And like, I'm like, oh, this is a mistake. And I see myself in the back corner.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like it keeps all of it kind of one scrapbook type thing, digitally at least.
How much of, if you talk about scrapbooks from back in the day, high school to college, how much of that stuff did your parents keep or do you still have? And do you ever refer to that and be like, I remember that play in high school?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think my parents have about just everything you could possibly imagine from like, you know, middle school track medals to, I mean, high school football newspaper cutouts,
right.
you name it. But one of my favorite things that my family does, my grandparents have something called the Cliftsonian. Their last name is Clift. And each one of their kids and their grandkids, they have like a little part in their basement, which is almost like a shrine with all like medals and accolades and pictures and all that stuff, which is super cool to go see like my mom's old track records and then some of my dad's old basketball pictures. So they kind of keep everything all in the same basement area, which is pretty cool.
Cliftsonian. That's right. Fantastic.
Yeah, they're very proud of it. It's actually really cool. It's always fun to go see all the updated pictures and stuff.
And talking about the digital side of things a little bit, like, you know, as a professional athlete now, like, I know using social media is a little different because you got to decide, like, how involved are you going to be? And I know I've talked to some of the other guys, and they're like, I don't mess around with social media at all. Some guys are way heavier into it. So for, like, you, like, after a game, I know you typically, like, on Instagram, you'll post, like, a picture you like. How do you kind of, like, decide how involved you want to be with it versus just, like, connecting with fans, things like that? Because there's all different sides to it.
I've always been one to kind of not be on social media a lot. Typically during the season, I'll try to post at least one thing a week, whether it's a football picture or something with some teammates. You know, usually put something on my story after a big win. I'm pretty minimalistic with it, but our agency, the agent that I have, we have a girl named Bailey. She helps me with all that stuff. So she has my login. She can throw up stories if she needs to, especially stuff with like knock socks, the thing I got going with the PUNT Foundation. She helps me a ton with all that. Kind of takes some of the stress off of my hands because I don't know how to make all the fancy different stories and graphics and all that. She makes it a lot easier on me.
Special shout out to Bailey because she's
Bailey,
who helped us get you on this show today.
That's
so
right. I was just
Bailey.
on the phone with her right before I walked in. Big shout out to Bailey from Rep 1.
Yeah, she's been awesome. And speaking of Noxus socks, that's actually kind of why you're here today too. West Herr has kind of teamed up with the PUNT Foundation and you. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that because it's a really cool campaign. If you look down, I'm actually wearing a pair of them right now.
Go. I love it.
For people that don't know, Dawson has released a series of socks with Bare Feet, I believe is the company with their name. All different designs, really cool stuff from Buffalo football. Your face is literally on my feet right now. There's all different cool stuff, but the proceeds go towards the PUNT Foundation, which is pediatric cancer. It helps with that. And here at West Herr, we're donating $1 extra for up to $10,000 for every pair that are purchased. So how did you become involved with the PUNT Foundation and this campaign? Because it's a really cool idea. Like, how did this all come to be?
Yeah, so long story short, my rookie year, Lee Smith introduced me to the PUNT Foundation ladies. Went to the Children's Hospital, was able to go out and meet some of the kids, meet some of the families, and just bringing a smile to a family that's going through one of the worst things you can imagine was instantly just so satisfying to be able to, anyone that puts on a Bills jersey can go in and light up a room there, which was just so cool to see because I've seen it firsthand in my family. One of my cousins, several years back, he's very fully healthy now, but he dealt with a rare form of bone cancer. So I saw firsthand the effect that it can have on a family, and it's just devastating. It's very there's a lot of things that you don't know which way it's going to go. Like there's a lot of question marks you have, but any type of relief you can give to the family, whether it's financially or just, bringing a smile, it's pretty awesome. So I fell in love with them pretty quick. And now this will be the second year doing knock socks, which I kind of just got the idea of every time we go to the hospitals, all the kids are wearing just these gray generic hospital socks. And I was like, you know what, it'd be cool for them to at least slip on some colorful Buffalo, anything on it with some color that they can act like they, it's their own socks instead of just putting on the boring gray stuff. So, thankfully, Knox rhymes with socks.
I was going to say, it kind of helps that your name is built into it.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of creativity had to go into that, but For Bare Feet is the company that we partnered with, and they've been incredible with all these different designs. Like that one, I haven't even seen that one yet. Yep. I think that's the Nashville edition with the guitar
Dawson's
and some
face
stuff
on there and a lot of good stuff, music notes.
Exactly, yeah. So they do a great job, and they give 25% of all the proceeds directly to PUNT. And then you guys do an additional $1 on top of that, which is incredible. So last year they raised a ton of money, and hopefully, we'll do it again this year.
When you see Buffalo fans contribute to something, they don't just kind of get in, they're all in.
Oh, yeah.
Has that been pretty impressive? I mean, it doesn't really matter what the organization is or what, I mean, obviously this is something that we really get behind, but the fans show up, not just on game day, but all year round.
No question. I mean, that's another reason why this fan base is just the best in the world. There was the tight end U competition this summer that I didn't even know about it till later. I think maybe Travis Kelce was winning. I threw up one story, and our fans donated, I think, 5 times the amount that the second place person had. And then OJ at the time had the third most donations. So it was like between me and OJ, we had, I think, almost 10 times the next person's donations.
Incredible.
Just from our fans being so incredible and generous with their money. And then again, another incredible donation was started after my brother passed away, and they just, gave, I think, just in increments of $16 because that was my brother's number. To the point where I think it was over $200,000 straight to the PUNT Foundation.
Amazing.
So it really is just, it shows you where their hearts are and that they care about so much more than just football. And that's what is so endearing about this city and this town and these people.
Yeah. And I think obviously, Josh experienced it firsthand with his grandmother and that foundation, the Patricia Allen Fund, that all the things that have taken off with that. But, for yourself, and obviously, you were going through a really tough time in your family, and, thoughts are still with you and your family as well with everything that happened to your younger brother. But when something like that happens and do you feel the difference, like when you're in a community like this, when they do rally? I know your teammates talked about it a lot and rallying around you in the community, donating. Does that impact you and your family? Like, do you feel that even if you're not physically here at the time?
Oh, absolutely. Just the amount of texts from teammates and coaches and staff to different things I saw on social media, and just the sheer amount of donations given to the PUNT Foundation. It was, I would have never expected that type of response. And it just, it really was extremely just cool to see. And it made me excited to get back here too and kind of get back to this community and see everybody, get back in the building with all my teammates. I think there's a lot of scenarios where you would dread going back to work, which it definitely was hard, kind of getting back into the routine. But there's no better place to have done that than here with just this community around us. It's been pretty incredible to see.
I mean, people talk about closure and things like that. And I mean, if you've ever experienced loss, which all of us have, there's really never that moment where you can say, all right, this is it, I'm past this. So living here, playing here, being a part of this community, it's the city of good neighbors, but it's really about love here. It's not just about being a good neighbor, I think.
Oh, absolutely. There's always that cliche Buffalo love.
Right, exactly. But it is true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something that I think more and more the nation has started to see, just the reach that Bills fans have from, Josh's grandmother's foundation to them donating, I think, 6 figures to Lamar Jackson's charity.
Exactly, yes. Tua's foundation recently.
Exactly. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you're a rival or if, you're a family member. These fans are going to take care of their own and take care of people that they see that need it. So it's just, again, it just goes to show the level of care and love that the city has.
And as you've been here now a little while, you've been with the team, and you're coming into more time in the NFL. And I guess for you, versus when you were drafted here, you hear about Buffalo, you hear about the snow, you hear about chicken wings, like you hear the standard stuff. And I'm sure your agents are talking to you when you find out you're going to be drafted by Buffalo. But like, since you've been here and you've gotten to know the area and the community, like maybe tell us something that's just like you actually discovered about this community or this area that you had no idea about when you ended up here.
Oh, yeah. So first of all, I mean, I'm from the South. I'm from Nashville. Okay. I had no idea what geography is up here. Like when I got drafted, I was like, okay, cool. We'll be close to New York City, which, obviously we're not. I had no idea we're going to be this close to Canada. Right. Niagara Falls is incredible. But definitely the number one thing I didn't expect was just the caring community that this is. And it really is a city of good neighbors. Down south we got all the Southern hospitality, and people are always really nice down there. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. All the manners you can get, but it's like a whole different level up here. It's almost like that Southern hospitality feel, but it's almost like everyone's one big family, which also sounds like a cliche, but you can't really know until you get here, until you actually experience it for yourself.
You talk about the geography. Let's talk about playing in different weather types. You come from the South, hot weather. Tennessee gets very hot. Playing in Miami versus playing on a super cold day in Buffalo, which would you prefer after you've experienced both?
I'm taking cold every day of the week.
I said kidding. That last week. And
I'm not lying. I'd rather play in that negative 12-degree New England game every game of the year instead of doing that Miami game.
Is that because you lose so much during the game? You're just constantly, you can't fight it.
I mean, I had to leave the game in the third quarter just to go get another IV in Miami.
Okay, I got to ask this question. That actually happens.
Yeah.
The IVs are real. They
no
do
question.
That. No kidding.
Yeah, so
how does your body feel? Like, is it an immediate transition?
Yeah, so I usually get an IV before every game, just probably 2 hours before the game. Even if it's going to be cold, I always just get an IV. So I did that in Miami. I mean, I probably should have got 2, but you don't really feel an immediate difference. It just kind of helps you if you do need it. Like you won't cramp as quickly as you would if you didn't have it. But in Miami, when it's that hot and you're just constantly in the sun, it's that humid, you're running around with all these pads on. you're going to lose a lot of fluid. So no matter how much you're drinking, whether it's Pedialyte or pickle juice or whatever it is, you're not going to get enough to prevent you from cramping and have some of that heat illness. So the IV definitely saved me to where I could get back in for the third and fourth quarter.
Incredible.
And Isaiah McKenzie was talking about this after the game because he's literally from Miami. Like, that's where he lives. And he said, they asked him if, like, are you used to that? He said no. He said believe he got 2 IVs during the game, and he still was dragging himself. Steph was dragging himself off the field at the end. Like, I guess for you, like, I know we're already a game past that, so it's a little bit in the rear view for you. But like, have you ever been in a game where that many guys were going out like that? It's not only injury wise, but just the heat exhaustion and everything. I don't think I've ever watched a game where there was that many players that at one point or another were on and off the field like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was like a war of attrition out there. You know, it was like, you know, usually you get off to the sidelines after a drive and you got coaches giving you corrections on the iPad. You got, you know, maybe you might call up to the box to talk to Coach Dorsey, get any type of corrections from Josh, give him suggestions what you see in the defense. But you would get to the sideline, it would be like triage. You know, you got trainers stretching you out, you got people bringing you fluids, and of course they designed the stadium to where the opposing sideline is just in the sun the entire time. So it's probably a 20-degree difference, shade versus the sun. So we're baking out here, and you know their sideline's perfectly in the shade. So we bring these little portable, almost tent things just to keep the sun off of you some of the time. But there's not much you can do. I feel like when it's really cold, you can always heat up. You got the heated benches, the seat warmers, hand warmers. You can always add layers, but when it's too hot, like there's not much you can do.
Do you put the hand warmers like in the hand muffs that you guys have? You sneak them right in there. Because once in a while I see something thrown off the field and I wonder if that popped out of one of those.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I actually have a jersey for cold games with a built-in pocket to the jersey.
I think Josh has one of those too.
Yeah,
right?
Josh has one too.
I remember
and
Jim Kelly used to wear those all the time. And
it's got a little zipper in there for hand warmers.
Yeah.
So that New England game was the coldest I've ever played in, but I was having fun out there. Like, I thought it was great. I feel like you can run a little bit further. You get a little bit more energy when it's cold, because when you're out there running around, you get warmed up pretty well. But when it's hot, it drains you really quick.
And I know McDermott said after the game, the Miami game, he said, I believe, maybe this is true or not, you can tell us, but he said after the game, he didn't even make you guys, when he gives his post-game speech, usually he has everyone come up. He said, I just let them stay seated because they literally couldn't stand up after
the game. I mean, we had guys that couldn't move. Like, there were IVs being brought to guys in their locker, you know, guys cramping up on the plane. Like, it was a real issue. And obviously that whole week we knew it was going to be hot. And it's not like people were just being negligent. You know, it's just one of those things you can't avoid. So hopefully, you know, it's going to be pretty fun when they come up here, and hopefully it's going to be a blizzard.
Could be
winter time.
I mean, December 17th could be lake effect snow, could be all that.
Bring it. We would love that. Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously that was 2 weeks ago, and then we had the game in Baltimore, the great comeback win that you were a part of. But we do want to just check in. Obviously, you know, we can't, you know, we're not trying to give away any competitive advantage to people watching here, but, you know, you weren't able to play in the most recent game versus Pittsburgh. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
Definitely working back to be back for this game. It's just a little hamstring thing. I had a little ankle sprain earlier in the season against the Titans, on the right side. And it's one of those things where sometimes if you have a minor injury, it can affect a bunch of different things because you start overcompensating on one side. The more I've played, the more I've learned about the just human anatomy, and it's crazy. Like, I've seen guys with turf toe on one side that affects their lower back on the other side. I mean, everything's connected. So, you know, a ankle sprain can lead to a sprained hamstring. So, hopefully I'll be back for this one.
They talk about yoga a lot. Players, you know, do different yogas and things like that, or even ballet, I've heard as well. Is that something that's also like a legend or a myth, or is that something that you guys try to practice as well?
Oh, yeah, we got a big yoga room in the facility.
No kidding.
That's a big off-season thing for me. I love hot yoga. Sometimes it's like a good off-day thing. And it's hard too. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried hot yoga. But
I've tried it, and my wife's like, "No,
sweating.
No, just leave me alone. Let me do this now."
It is miserable.
Constantly sweating.
It is miserable. One of the hardest workouts ever.
Right.
But I mean, it's great just for stretching and mobility things. But I mean, our training staff, our strength staff does an incredible job with any type of mobility work. Even our lifts, like our workouts, are kind of mixed and matched with some stretching stuff and some mobility things to where they try to maximize any type of mobility and flexibility you can have, because it's not just all about squatting as much as you can or benching as much as you can, because that's when more injuries happen. But our strength staff and training staff are some of the best in the league.
And I'll put myself on the spot here. I was hiking last week, and I actually slipped on a rock and fell right on my tailbone. Like 9 days ago, worst. I bruised it, and I thought I was gonna die. Like my girlfriend's like, "You're fine," and I'm like, "I'm not fine." And I'm sitting in this chair right now, 9 days removed, and I'm like, I can't imagine you getting hit by some of the guys you get hit by, and I'm having trouble just sitting here with my tail. But
they give you the donut to sit on.
Yeah, I have one, like literally in my car right now. But like you said, like I woke up the next day, my ankle was killing me, like my arm was, I'm like, I felt like bad. I didn't even fall on any of that. I'm like, I turned 33 a couple weeks ago. We were talking about this. I'm like, I guess it's all over after that.
It's all downhill after, or it's all uphill after 33.
I don't understand how Tom Brady doesn't win. I know the man's an all-world athlete, but at 45, which I just turned, the next day, you're still a human being. That has to be hurt. Like,
I don't know
has to
how he
on.
does it, honestly.
It's incredible.
I mean, yeah, he's taken so many hits that I don't know how he's still moving.
Yeah.
It's very impressive, and especially, I mean, Josh too.
Right,
well, exactly. Yes.
Like he's running over defensive ends.
Yep. When that happens, you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, because we're all thinking
slide.
it too.
Yeah, that's what we're all saying. So like when you're on the field, like do you hold your breath too when you see some of that stuff?
So almost every week we have bets with Josh for him to slide. So like, hey, if you slide this week without getting touched, we'll do this. You know, to kind of incentivize him.
Yeah.
Yeah, an unnamed player the last week had to wear only a jock strap to a walkthrough, and that was good enough for Josh to slide a couple times.
Classic.
So
you're helping your quarterback's health by putting your own potential embarrassment on the line.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're always trying to get him to slide because, I mean, we believe he's the best football player in the league, and he's our most valuable player. We think he's the MVP of the league. Obviously, he shows that on Sundays too. So we're like, dude, you got to stay healthy. You got to quit running through people and taking all these hits, because it's for the betterment of the team for you not to do that.
Right.
But then sometimes when he's jumping over guys for a first down conversion, you can't say anything. You're like, good job.
Right.
No, please
Thanks.
just get up. And,
Dawson, when you're watching from the sideline, obviously down a week, working on the hamstring or whatever, and you're seeing the excitement that we saw at this last game, how much FOMO do you have? Or is it like, oh man, I could have done this better if I was only out there? Or how's that feel from the sideline?
Tough. It's really tough. Just the feeling of being there without being able to be on the field is one of the worst feelings ever. And that's the worst thing about sports is injuries, because you work so hard all year. You pour your blood, sweat, and tears into the practice field and the games, and then sometimes, unfortunately, injuries can keep you out. But I mean, at the same time, you got to be a good teammate. You got to cheer everybody on, and especially in a game like yesterday, it's fun to see everybody having success. Kyer got his first interception. Quentin Morris had a few big plays for us. Tommy Sweeney was blocking his tail off the whole game, had some huge blocks for us. So it was really fun to watch those guys go out and do their thing. But at the same time, you want to be out there for every snap you can be.
Yeah, and I think we have to. We were talking about this before we started filming, but Gabe Davis just went off yesterday. I mean, that was like an incredible game. I mean, the 98-yard touchdown from Josh, we were talking about that. The one-handed grab where he rips it away from Minka Fitzpatrick, who's, by the way, one of the best safeties in the league. So when you're watching that on the sideline, obviously you have your own relationship with Gabe, but like, what's that like? Is it like a proud like brother moment? Is it like a fan, like you're just over there like in awe? Like what's that? Because I know Steph talked about it after the game, and he said I had to tell Gabe he's still slow, but it was still one of the best plays I've ever seen in my life. Like, what's that like for you, seeing something?
And that's the funny thing. I think Steph beat him by like 0.2 miles per hour yesterday. So of course he's going to hold that over him. But I mean, yesterday on those couple plays, I was a fan, 100%. Like that one-handed grab, the 98-yard touchdown to start the game. It's so awesome to see because he works as hard as anybody I've ever seen. Like that dude won't even take vacations. He will work his tail off year-round, and to see that translate to all the success he has on the field is pretty incredible. But he's also one of my best friends on the team.
Yeah.
Like, we're probably going to play some cards after this, you know. He's always coming over to my house. We're always hanging out at his house. So he's just genuinely a great guy. And anytime that a great guy has success like that, everyone's happy for him.
Did you tell him thanks? Because he was out a bit with an ankle, and then he came back, and then you're out, so you guys are kind of like balancing each other
Yeah,
out.
no, we've been flip-flopping. Now he's just got to share some touchdowns with
Yeah,
me.
there
And we'll be good.
When you hear that crowd, like he's running, all right, he's past the 50-yard line, and there's one guy that's trying to catch him. What's that like? I mean, you've experienced, you know, the stadium on the high end of things. Do you hear the crowd? Are you in the zone at that moment? What's that like as a player?
When you're on the field, you typically don't hear it while the play's going on. If we're playing away at a place like Kansas City where they get really loud, it can definitely have an effect, like on pre-snap stuff. When you're in the huddle, it's sometimes hard to hear Josh. It's hard to hear a cadence. Sometimes we got to flip to a silent count. So you definitely hear it before the snap. But usually when the play's going, you don't really hear the roar of the crowd because you're just so locked into doing your job. But when you're on the sideline and you see that ball in the air and you can kind of hear the whole stadium kind of like hold their breath for a second and then everyone just go nuts all at the same time, like that's one of the coolest thing in all of sports.
It was screechingly loud on that touchdown.
It was unbelievable.
Because of the whole scenario, right? 3rd and 10, 98 yards away, like just incredible. You guys must have been so excited to see that.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have the best home field advantage, you know, because especially when it gets cold too. But our fans are the best in the league, and they bring it when the defense is out there. You know, I mean, I think the Rams had to go silent count in L.A.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
they did.
that
Yeah,
is
with
a,
Dallas playing there because of
like,
all the fans.
that's not
yeah.
really talked about a lot,
Yep.
but having to go silent count affects the whole game because it's hard for you as an offense to time up when the snap's going to be. So it kind of equalizes the playing field. So the D-line kind of goes at the same time as the O-line instead of when you're on a snap count, it can be on 2 or 3 or all these different cadences. Like we have, 6 or 7 different cadences. So when you know it, you can kind of get that first half-second jump on the D-line, which is crucial. But when you're having to go silent count, everything's kind of equalized. So seeing the Rams have to go silent count in their own place was insane.
And one question I did want to ask you while we have you, because I think this is an interesting perspective. We heard different players talk about it after the game, but obviously that Miami game didn't end the way you want to. It's the only loss of the season so far, but everyone saw the viral video of Ken Dorsey's reaction after the game in the booth and everything. And, Josh talked about it, different players talked about it, that they liked it. They felt what he was feeling. I think fans related to it too.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to it? Because it got a lot of attention. Obviously, it was a very dramatic video, but do you like that, seeing that from your offensive coordinator?
We love it.
Yeah.
Like there's not a single guy in the locker room that feels differently about it. It's just his competitive nature. Like we would feel weird if he was just kind of like calm and it was complacent. But seeing that type of passion out of your coach is what you want. And obviously no one likes to lose. And football is a passionate, emotional game. So everyone hates losing, and we love seeing that out of a coach too, because he wants to win just as bad as we do. But then when he got down to the locker room, he was calm, cool, and collected, gave us our corrections, worked on film the next day, and we moved past it.
Yep.
And then I think, we go out and Josh sets a singles game record in 3 quarters yesterday. So, Coach Dorsey is loved by everybody in that entire building. I saw a pretty funny sign in the stands. It was like during the game yesterday, it was like, relax, he just saw a spider or something. It was like, relax, Ken Dorsey just saw a spider.
There was one at the Baltimore game too. At the end, I saw someone post something, and it said something to the effect of, when you guys came back and won the game, it said like, the headset's safe or something like that for this time around. So people have been having fun with that too.
Oh yeah. Obviously if you don't know anything about football and you see that, you're like, oh wow, he lost his cool. But anybody who's in our building, anyone who really knows football knows that, that is real, and that happens when you truly care about the team and truly care about your players. So we wouldn't want it any differently than that.
And Clay, for if people watching, or maybe you don't, Clay's actually the PA announcer at the stadium, so he's the voice you hear over the speakers there. And you were telling us a cool story before that you actually got to meet Tony Romo yesterday.
What's neat about where I'm at is you get to see, because the way the stadium currently is set up, we're not far from the national broadcast. Now, the new stadium, we might be tucked in the corner somewhere, but this is a cool perspective because there's Tony Romo getting ready to do the broadcast, and I had one chance. I get to meet the guy, and I said, "Are you Tony Romo?" Because he looked like he just rolled out of bed. I said, "Yeah." I said, "I got to shake your hand." We had a quick conversation. He was tying his tie in front of the Pepsi machine because the bathrooms were taken. But as a celebrity of your status, you're out. You're a regular guy. You happen to be a world-class athlete. Does that frustrate you when people come up like that in random encounters? Was I way off? Because I said, "I'm sorry, Tony, but I'm a super fan." He said, "That's okay. You're doing it right. You're not overdoing it." So does that frustrate you guys? I mean, you're it, right? Buffalo, you guys are all-stars right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's frustrating. I think it just shows you how much our fans care, and we know that. We want it to be the other way. We don't want to have fans that don't really care about the team. So, I mean, it just shows you the level of love and support the fans have. The only time it can get annoying is if you're like sitting down at a dinner and people won't leave you alone, like asking you to stand up and get pictures.
I feel like if you're eating, that's the line.
Right.
Let them do their thing. Let
so
them
that's
have
the
their
one
privacy.
thing that can be annoying, but there is a right way to do it. You can, the fans will come up and be like, "Hey man, we're big fans. Go Bills. Good luck this Sunday." That's awesome. But when you get someone who walks in and be like, "Oh my gosh, can you come out here and take a picture with us right now, please?" Like they're excited, which is great, but sometimes you kind of need your own privacy and kind of want to enjoy your meal without being bothered all the time. But it's a give and take thing too. Like we know that everyone has good intentions. No one wants to be annoying. But there is a right way to do it, and most people are really respectful with it.
Is there somebody in this world, television, movie, singer, that you would not fanboy over, but be very excited to meet?
Oh, I got to meet Michael Jordan this summer.
Oh, wow.
And
That's why you did what I said.
Incredible. Okay.
And I was trying as hard as I could not to be that annoying. Not because I
You
know
asked him
the
to go
other side.
outside and take a picture
I was
while
like,
he was eating.
The whole time in the back of my head, I'm like, "Do not ask him for a picture. Don't ask him for a picture. Don't ask him for a picture." But it was really cool. Like it was for the tight end U thing. A few of us were at this little event. We got to meet him for a few minutes. We were talking about his favorite shoes, talking about golf and cigars. I mean, all the things he likes. And the whole time it was just kind of surreal. We're like, "This is Michael Jordan." That was the first time in my life I've been like starstruck. First thing I did was call my dad. I was like, "You won't believe this."
Oh, so cool.
We didn't get a picture. But I mean, it was one of those things in the back of your mind. You're like, "All right, just don't be annoying to him," because I can't imagine what he has to deal with.
And that's kind of how I was with Tony Romo. Plus, my boss was there, and I'm like, "I don't know if this is as professional as they want me to be right now." So.
For you guys though too, like Clay said, and I know we were talking about this before we started filming, just with like Gabe's reaction. Like he actually reposted a video of Tony Romo calling one of his touchdowns, because Tony Romo is like a former player who everyone kind of likes his calling style for games. He's become kind of known as the guy that can like call plays before they happen. For you guys as players, like, are there certain broadcasters when they come to town, like if it's the national team for ESPN or something, like do you actually pay attention to that stuff, or is it just kind of like, I'm focused on the game? Like, how does that work with like the broadcast teams and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's also, or it's always really fun when we have the like primetime games. That's when all the camera crews are there. You're the only game on TV, whether it's Sunday night football, Thursday night, or Monday night. That's kind of when it feels a little different. 1 o'clock games are great. But there's always something special about the primetime ones when the biggest names in the business are going to be there, and everyone's going to be watching. So I think that's really the only time it's like a little different feeling than just a normal 1 o'clock game.
Yeah. And for people watching right now, we actually are streaming live on Instagram in addition to recording here. So we have some people asking a couple questions. Pepper them in as we go. And someone actually asked about your pregame ritual you could tie into Josh's vomiting before the game. So people, this is a common thing. We've talked to Josh about this before. For maybe people watching that don't know, Josh actually throws up before every game.
I wonder
He's
how
talked
people figure
about
that
it.
out.
So do you have any sort of pregame rituals? And have you witnessed this Josh Allen hurling episode?
Oh, everyone's witnessed it.
Yeah.
I would never
They
call
cheer
him out
him on,
it,
right?
but-
He said people actually stand around and cheer him on.
Oh yeah, sometimes they're like, "Bro, you got to get it out.
Yep. The demons.
We can't
They get the
play.
demons out,
we
right?
can't
Yeah.
play until you get the demons out."
Yeah.
So everyone knows it's gonna happen. Usually it's more discreet than people actually cheering them on.
Sure.
But thankfully, I've never been a guy that throws up before games.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be miserable. But whatever he's doing, I fully support because it's working.
Yeah.
But, I mean, usually I just put on a playlist. There's not really one particular thing I do. I usually go out on the field a little early, kind of walk around, whether it's home or away. And just, I mean, my process is very normal. I'd say most of the guys just do the same thing, get dressed around the same time, listen to music. But there's really, I was trying to think about it. There's not really one particular thing I do. For home games, I always have the same cup of coffee driving in at the same time to the facility from the hotel into Orchard Park. But, yeah, thankfully no throwing up or anything like that.
How much does excuse me, Brad, but how much does the time of the day affect your routine? Because this year you've got 1 o'clock, 4, midnight, all different times of day. We are excited. Like, when's this game going to get going? How does that affect the player?
Yeah, it was weird yesterday playing our first home 1 o'clock game after.
It was strange seeing people out at 9 in the morning.
We were like, wow, it's finally it felt like our first real home game because the Monday night game was different. But yeah, like the night games, personally, I prefer them just because the prime time kind of gets the juices flowing a little extra, a little more excitement. But there is a lot of waiting around in the hotel. So a lot of guys hate it because you're just sitting there in your hotel room or walking around, just doing anything you can just not to get your mind too anxious for the game. But I could sleep into 11 o'clock if I could. So on those late games, I love sleeping in. We usually have a walkthrough kind of midway through the day just to get the guys moving around a little bit. Space out your meals. It's a lot more waiting around doing nothing when it's the midnight games, but or not the midnight games, the later at night games. But yeah, it's not a huge difference, but there's a lot more waiting involved.
And you were telling us, though, the one thing there is a big difference for is the day of the week you play on. So, like, versus the Thursday night game, especially when you're coming off a Sunday or a Monday game, like, that actually impacts you because there's way less time to recover and to kind of prepare, I guess, for the next game.
Yeah, 100%. That's the biggest difference is going from, like, a Sunday game to a Thursday. Right. Because football games are violent. You got little dings and bruises everywhere. You wake up the next morning and feel like you went to battle, I think there was some science or report that came out that kind of compared it to getting in a couple car wrecks. Sure. So there's tons of soreness. So you need every single day of the week possible to get your body back right for the next game. But when it's cut down by 3 days, everything needs to be sped up. But our staff and coaches and everybody does a great job getting everybody ready no matter how many days we got ready to prepare for it. On shorter weeks, some practices might be walkthroughs instead of full speed. There might be a few extra like rest things involved just to kind of get our bodies back right. But I'd say that's the hardest thing schedule-wise is going from a Sunday to a Thursday.
I'm wondering if that's going to be some sort of advantage moving into the Kansas City game. They're playing a Monday night game, got Las Vegas. That extra day may be an advantage. I mean, even it is at Arrowhead, but that could help. Oh,
absolutely. I think even just being reduced, even their week just being reduced by 1 day is an advantage for the other team. Because when we play on a Monday night, there is a little extra sense of urgency because you have one less day. So usually we play on Sundays. We come in on Monday. Like today, we went in for a few hours, watched the film, got a good workout in, kind of stretched out some of that soreness. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the more you move around and lift weights and kind of run, the more that soreness kind of works out, which is great. But we did that today. Tomorrow we'll be off. Then we'll kind of get back into everything Wednesday. But now, if you play on a Monday night, the next day will be off, and then you got to get right back into it the day after that. So it's one less rest and recovery day. But our staff does a great job adjusting to all those things.
And, I do want to ask you a little bit about Kansas City coming up, but before we get there, one thing I did want to ask about earlier was you were talking about, you have a playlist, you like to listen to a music, and, Josh's playlist has been really publicized because it's Josh, but him and I are like kindred souls when it comes to music. I'm a huge Frank Sinatra guy, like Michael Bublé, like that's my guy. Like I'm going to the concert tomorrow night, like all that stuff is like my vibe, and so I respect him for that. But for you, being a Nashville guy and seeing as we have the country radio superstar over here himself, are you a country guy? Do you like what do you listen to? Like as a Nashville guy, are you pressured into country because it's like the mecca of country
I guess you
music?
are kind of like indoctrinated into the country world when you're growing up in Nashville, but country is my favorite genre. But I kind of have a playlist that bounces around from everything. Yeah. Like there's some classic rock in there. Cody Jinks is one of my favorite country guys right now. Loud and Heavy, his song Loud and Heavy is one of the first songs I listen to every game day. I mean, there's some rap in there, there's a little bit of everything. So I just kind of bounce around to what I'm feeling in that moment. I mean, there's some Phil Collins, Feel It in the Air.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of everything.
Awesome.
What about post game? Like, is there a sound? Is like
party time, right?
Oh, it's party time.
Who controls the music in the locker room?
It's a little bit of everybody. Ed Oliver's on the aux court a lot.
I heard Von Miller had some since he joined
Von's
the
like
team.
a DJ.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, so his locker's right next to mine in the locker room, and he's got like his turntables, he's got the big panel with all the dials, and he's got his mixes up on his laptop with all of his huge speakers. And some days I'm like, dude, we got to turn it down. Like I can't, like my ears are ringing when we go out for practice. But yeah, he controls the music a lot too.
I know when you guys won your first game, one of my favorite post-game quotes came from him. He said, "We're going to make the plane do backflips," is what he kept saying. And I guess you can attest to that being true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate. After a big win, the back of the plane's pretty fun. Guys are up walking around and, playing cards on the plane, kind of just hanging out. We're not doing backflips, but right. The plane rides home after a win they're always pretty great.
When you go on the road, this is actually a question my wife wanted me to ask you today because she's a huge fan of the outfits and the luggage that you guys carry on the road because the team shows those on social media. Do you have a stylist that helps you with that, or are you like I'm going to be myself today, just do my own thing?
So big shout out to Bureau. That's who I work with here in Buffalo. They're downtown. They do all my suits. So I actually started working with them last year. Went in, got tailored fit for a suit, and then they made me one for every away game. So now I got them in my closet, and they even got a note card on them like, hey, this is the Baltimore game.
Cool.
Yeah.
It makes everything so easy for me. And then I usually just text them like, hey, what shoes am I supposed to wear with this? And then John helps me out with all that stuff. And I think they work with a few guys on the team. I think they even do Coach McDermott's suits. So they make it easy on me. If I was dressing myself, I'd probably be wearing sweats. But but some of those suits are really nice, and they do a great job with all that stuff.
So there is a coordination to that. Incredible.
Oh, absolutely. But I can't wrap my head around what some of the other guys wear. Like, I'm like, where do you even find
They were
some of this
showing
stuff?
Joe Burrow the other night, and it's like, man, that's a lot. They really look into this.
It's like some of those guys are sort of like, how different can I possibly be to draw the most attention I possibly can to myself? But I mean, some guys, just like fashion and they find their own style, and all credit to them for doing what they love. But I'll never be able to do that for myself, I don't think.
And, not to ignore the elephant in the room here, obviously we have another game we've already alluded to coming up in Kansas City, and we all know kind of the history at this point with that team. I mean, the past two playoffs and the past 2 years and, Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, there's just a lot of different storylines going into that. So for you guys, a lot they talked about this last game was the team was up big at the half, and they were able to really keep their foot on the pedal and accelerate and win that game, because sometimes it's easy when you're up that big to kind of just lean back and then you get into trouble. So, you guys are 4-1 now. This is the last game before the bye. How do you kind of approach that game, not get too high on it, knowing the past, but also knowing you have a bye coming up after? What's your mindset going into this game?
Yeah. One of our biggest focal points for the season is just making every game the biggest game because it's the next one, so now that we're done with this last one, Kansas City's our biggest game just because it's the next one. So we don't want to put anything special on it. It's not like it's a playoff game. Obviously, there is a little rivalry there. They have got the best of us the last 2 years in the playoffs. But we also are firm believers that no one can beat us but us. So I think as long as we do our job, as long as we execute our offense, we're going to be a hard team to beat. And I think we've shown that on the field that, as long as we're taking care of the football, as long as we're executing with, good fundamentals, I don't think anybody can beat us but ourselves.
Will you stay away from some of the hype this week, media-wise? I mean, because there's two games that are being watched this week. There's Dallas, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Kansas City.
Right. There's going to be a lot of hype around it, but we just got to remind ourselves it's just another game. We don't need to do anything special. We don't need to add anything to practice. We don't need to add anything to our film study. We don't need to do anything outside of our normal routine. Just treat it like a normal game, but also it's the most important one just because it's the next one. So there's a lot of cliches in there, just taking it day by day, one day at a time. But there is going to be a lot of extra media hype, a lot of extra storylines, a lot of extra people watching this one.
When you guys see the schedule come out, because I know as fans, like, we do that, but, like, do you look at certain games, like, do you see, okay, we have to play Kansas City and we have to go to Kansas City again? Because it feels like every game you guys are going to Kansas City. So, like, when the schedule came out, did you see that game or do you circle certain games? Like, how does that work as a player on the team?
Yeah, naturally, you're always going to find a couple games you're more excited for. One of those ones for me this year was the Titans game, the Monday Night Football, home opener, home team. Had a bunch of friends and family come up for it, and it was kind of almost like a revenge game from last year too. So that was one for me. Obviously, the Chiefs is a big one. Just because they got the best of us, we still got that bad taste in our mouths from that playoff game. But, I think it's more harmful than anything if you start kind of overhyping it or getting too tensed up for it. It's just another game.
And do you guys see, like, everyone talks about the arm strength on Mahomes and Allen. Like, it's a common thing. Everyone always talks to Josh and him about wanting to have a charity event where they throw it off. Like, do you think Josh's arm's stronger than Pat's if you had to be put on the spot?
There's no doubt. Yeah, and some of the wind that he was having to throw through yesterday, and he's throwing 60-yard dimes to Gabe and to Steph. He's on a different level.
You could see that with the following kickoff because the ball just went straight up in the air.
Right.
To know that he threw that with accuracy and just precision, that's some arm strength right there.
Oh,
Incredible.
It's completely different. Like, it took me a while just to adjust to it. It was. His arm strength is unlike anything I've ever seen. There's a reason it's 99 on Madden or whatever. Right. It should be 100. I don't think it goes that high, though. But his arm talent is, best of the best.
And when you guys look ahead, obviously, like, I totally respect it. It's a week-to-week league. Like, you have to take it one game at a time. Like you said, that's Coach McDermott talks about that all the time. It's something you guys all talk about. But, like, looking down the line, obviously the success this team has had the past few years, there's, like, high expectations on you guys in the media every week. It's talked about, the top team in the league and all this stuff. So when you look down the line, like, what for yourselves, do you guys, like, what's the goal this season? I know the goal is to win the Super Bowl, obviously, but, like, do you build off that at all? Or is it just really sincerely week to week, we just win, we move on, and that's it?
Yeah, I think always you kind of have to have the long-term goals in the back of your mind, but the most important thing is what you're going to do today. So Super Bowl is the goal for the team. Everything we do, we talk about being playoff caliber. So we have a standard that's set between taking care of the football, situational football during the game, winning 2-minute drills, winning 4-minute, into half, into game stuff, winning the line of scrimmage, just little categories like that kind of go into our daily process. But, the biggest thing is just working on what you can control for today and not looking forward to, what am I going to do in practice Friday? What am I wearing to the game Saturday? We can't get too far ahead of ourselves or you'll miss out on what's important for today.
And I know I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question. Shout out to Matt Lasher, marketing director, my boss here. He wanted to know what product do you use in your hair because you have the best hair on Team West Herr, so we have to ask you that.
Thanks,
about
guys.
that.
Just usually condition it like once or twice a week.
You got that, Matt?
I'm not a big shampoo guy or anything like that. I kind of just run some water through it and go. And if I don't want to take the time to make it look good, I just throw on the hat like I am right now. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Appreciate that question.
Yeah. Well, I think that, and the last thing I just wanted to ask you in wrapping up here, because obviously we have you, we don't want to keep you all night. You got a game to get ready for. But, these touchdown celebrations you and Josh have, like, they get some notoriety, like the one you guys are touching your fingers together, like some of this. Do you guys, like, pre-plan that? Like, how does this all work, or is it, like, a spur of the moment? Because, like, some of these are awesome, though, that you guys have done.
Some are coordinated. Some are, like, in the huddle right before the play's called. Like, we know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like last year, the prom picks.
Yep.
That was a huddle call.
Okay.
So we're like, we knew, there's a good chance I was going to score. So we're like, oh, yeah, let's do prom picks.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
the fact you guys knew ahead of time to do that.
So, we may or may not have a few in the works.
Right.
We'll keep that a surprise.
Clay always makes me push for the insider scoop on this show. So last week we had Dell on from 26 Shirts, and he was trying to get the limited design released early. So now we're kind of getting the tease on the touchdown celebration.
We're always trying to stay one step ahead.
Trust me, there'll be some good stuff this year. Just got to score first.
We're hoping for a lot of that this time.
No doubt.
So, excellent. Well, Dawson Knox, thank you for your time. Thank you for all your work with the PUNT Foundation and Team West Herr. We appreciate all you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to a great season and another exciting edition. Dawson Knox, our guest today. On behalf of Brad Gelber and everybody here at Team West Herr, we'll see you next time. Have a great week. Let's go Buffalo.